Dear parents, dear students, my name is I'm the head of school, and I would like to welcome you warmly to LFSF Forward. I'm truly proud to launch this event, as it is organized for the first time in our school in this current format. So going back to LFSF Forward. First of all, parents who currently do not have a child enrolled in our school, can you please raise your hand? So, thank you. I wish to especially warmly welcome you in our school. I think some of you had children staying in our school today. Thank you for lending them us for a few hours. I think our student services team took good care of them and they had a good time in our school. I would like to start this introduction by acknowledging the teams who worked really hard to put together an event which we wish to be informative, entertaining and meaningful. Thank you to all teachers, all students, to our admission team, to our directors, and in particular Agnès Hogan, our Director of Admission and Communication, for coordinating and leading this very promising event. I would also like to introduce you to a few key members of our team here at Ortega. So, first of all, Mrs. Christine Riez, our Deputy Head of School, and more particularly in charge of this campus. Mrs. Elodie Galissot, our Director of Student Services. Mrs. Galissot is leading a team of exceptional student monitors, I don't know if they are here, who are on a regular daily basis with the students. A team, in her team, there's also a health coordinator with Mrs. Alice Gauvin, who has recently joined the LFSF. I will also introduce later on Mrs. Nathalie Bitton, who is our Director of College Counseling, and she will lead the panel just in a few minutes. So the objective today is to give you a true insight on what we offer on this campus for middle school and high school students. So far from attending the long traditional provisor talk, we would like you to actually communicate, meet, speak, see and hear from all the actors of our middle and high school. They are what makes our school special. This event is not about fancy presentations, it is truly about what makes our school vibrant, well alive, and fully in line with its time and even with the future. As this is really what we as a school are about. This event is indeed about the future, about what makes our students exceptional individuals, at ease on the world stage, about their future at school, and also about what prepares them to join the best universities around the world. There will be three parts on this, for this event. So first, after this introduction, there will be a panel discussion with parents and students led by Mrs. Nathalie Bitton, our amazing Director of College Counseling and Guidance. This will happen here, so in our theater, obviously, so you just need to sit back and relax for the moment. Then from 4:45 to 6:30, you will be able to explore our campus, meet students, teachers, administrators, and discover all the wonders of our middle and high school. Finally, at 6:30 here, we will meet you back here in our theater for our match d'impro, a casual and always extremely creative display of talents. I also will be delighted to speak to you, so feel free to ask me any questions. I will be mostly located in our library upstairs. I will now pass the floor over to Nathalie and our panel. Once again, welcome to our Ortega campus, welcome to the LFSF, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's always nice to see everybody come and assemble together, and we're very excited about the panel tonight. As you know, the Lycée is a pre-K through 12 school, and many of our families have their children here all through the system, and we thought it would be a nice occasion for you to meet one of those families in person and also on paper. I think when you came in, you all were given a flyer of two families that we highlighted that have had several children go through the whole lycée system. So tonight on our panel, we have the Superville family, or part of the Superville family, here to talk about their experience at the lycée and onward. And we have a current student, Noah Getz, who's in grade 11, who's at the eve of the next transition of his journey. And so we're going to ask each of them questions about their LFSF experience, and also invite you to ask them questions. So we'll just, whenever you have a question that you want to ask to either as everyone as a group or individually, just raise your hand and we'll pass the question on to them. So we're going to start first with a little introduction about who's on the panel so you get to know them.
Hello, my name is Sophie Suberly. I had 4 children, 3 of them are here tonight at the lycée. We moved here 20 years ago, and I saw all the different campuses. They started in Corte Madera, then they came to Ashbury, and my older son, who's not here, graduated the first year we were here at Ortega. And I've been serving on the board. I served 4 years ago, and I started serving again on the board of directors a year and a half ago. And it's a real pleasure and real honor to be here tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Chloe. I graduated in 2010. I started in CP first grade, and I am now a teacher and dean of students in Oakland.
Hi, my name is Nicholas. I graduated in 2012. I started LFSF in kindergarten, K3 I believe. And then I graduated via ES in 2012, and then I studied at the École de Lausanne in Switzerland, where I studied hospitality management, and now I work at the Four Seasons in Hawaii.
Hi, my name is Loïc Sudarville. I graduated from Ortega in 2014 in filière ES as well. I started in pre-K1, and I then went on to study performing arts at Savannah in Georgia, and I just graduated in June.
My name is Noah. I'm currently in 11th grade in the S track. Nice to meet you. Yeah, graduating next year.
Thank you. So I'll start it off with the first question. For each of you can answer, or a couple of you can answer, if you feel so inspired. So think back on your lycée experience, and that's many years for the Superville family. I know it's 52 years collectively. And what school tradition do you recall, or are you the most fond of when you think back on your lycée years? I stumped them already with my first question.
Does it have to be a tradition or just any fond memory?
Well, I see something came to mind, so go for it, because I see the twinkle in your eye.
No, it's just fond, in terms of fond memories, I just have very fond, every good memory that I have of the lycée is like just any good relationship that I had with professors like Monsieur Combo, who's here, or Ms. Borden. Yeah, just the memory for me of the lycée is the memory of the professors, and so what they instilled in us, I guess. So yeah.
No, I think the best part of the lycée is it's such a small school compared to a traditional American high school, and you know everybody. Everybody knows you, and you get to build the most amazing friendships just by, there was I think 20 or 30 of us in Terminal. You compare that to seniors in American high schools where there are like hundreds of them, and you don't necessarily know everybody in the hallways. Here, the professors know you. You know the professors almost too well, and everybody is really good friends, and it's just that, as you said, a lot of students have been here since kindergarten all the way through Terminal. 2 of my best friends today, and I have a lot of best friends, and we know each other since kindergarten, and we did all our years together in Terminal, so that's good.
So what I was going to say, I think that for me it was also the relationship with the teachers, all the amazing time spent in the foyer, and I mean, many of my best friends today that I consider my siblings are friendships that I was able to create at the lycée through shared experiences. One of the greatest memories that I have is a trip that we took with Monsieur Bumbo and my mom to Mexico. And it was just such an incredible experience where we were able to kind of take all the things that we had learned at lycée and apply them to the outside world, which was pretty neat.
Great, thanks. So I want to, Noah, did you want to add something? I want to piggyback on a few of the things that you said. You mentioned trips, in terms of fondest memories, you mentioned classroom. So part of the LFSF mission is our duty and responsibility as members of the school to prepare our students to become global citizens and people who serve the greater community. And how do you feel, for you personally, that LFSF prepared you to become the global citizens that you are?
Well, I think that first, in terms just of foundational skills, when I got to McGill, I felt incredibly prepared to be able to tackle a bunch of different, from cognitive skills all the way to social skills, in the way that, because we're such a small school, we're taught to kind of interact with people in a way that doesn't necessarily, or is not necessarily defined by where we're from or where the other person is from, but really being able to interact with people on a very human level. And so going into college and even afterwards in grad school, I found myself in a lot of situations in which I was with people that were from very different backgrounds than and I was able to build relationships that I found a lot of my peers didn't really know how to navigate. And I think that that's something that LFSF taught me very distinctively. And I'm thinking back to my experience in South Carolina, where I was teaching in a rural high school, and the ability that I had to connect with my students there, I think is a direct relation with the skills that I was taught at LFSF to be really empathetic and be really inquisitive about other people's experiences and about how we're able to relate to them. And so I think that was one of the biggest assets.
I think it all comes down to the people that you meet, and again, it's the friendship that you built. Even though we've all been here since kindergarten, we meet people that their parents come from France as expats, and you have new kids that come here from France, have no idea how to speak English. And then you also build friendships with people who their parents don't speak a word of French, and yet they stuck them into this French program, into this French school. And so you meet people from all over the world, and that allowed us to build these relationships and to know how to build them, because we like to think that we're citizens of the world already. We're very lucky, very fortunate. We're born in Mexico from French parents. We grew up in the United States. I mean, that already in and of itself is an extreme privilege. And so meeting people with that same rich cultural background in the lycée really pushed us to become these quote-unquote citizens of the world. And that helped me a lot, because at the École Hôtelière we had 200 students in the first year, and there was 90 nationalities. So that was a great preparation for that, coming to the lycée with such an international background as well.
I had sort of a different situation, just because although my sister and my brother went into worlds where everybody came from very diverse backgrounds, I was sort of a fish out of water kind of situation. In Georgia, in the South, there aren't a lot of French people. And so I think that because I was given all these social skills and stuff, and we were taught all these things, I was able to integrate myself so much easier than a lot of the French people that came directly from France, and they were very confused and shocked. This culture shock that I was lucky to not have to deal with, because I was given in this French high school in the United States. It's such a privilege, as my brother said, to be able to have both sides of the story. You have all these social and cognitive skills, as my sister said, that this school provides to you, and yet you're still in the United States. And so being able to see both those worlds is just such a privilege. Yeah.
Well, I'm not a global citizen yet, but I definitely, as you said about the inclusivity, you think that at the lycée, because of the small class size, that it'd be really hard for new kids, which we get a significant amount proportionally every year, to integrate, the social life at the lycée. But it's actually totally the opposite. It's like 3 weeks after they get here, it's like they've been here as long as we have. And everybody's just so inclusive and nobody gets left out. And I don't think it's like that in many other schools.
Okay, so the privilege that I have as Director of College Counseling here at the Lycée is to midwife people through their journeys as they transition and graduate from here, and then to see, where they go and the different directions that they go. And I've had the privilege of working with each of the Superville children/adults, and now with Noah. And so, can you say a little bit, I know families are always asking me, and families from when they have children that are 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, and about to graduate, ask us, is graduating with a French baccalaureate diploma in the United States going to prepare us for college? And for example, for the Superville family, each of you went to college in a different country. Noah, we'll see where you're going to end up. But if you could just speak to that, how the Lycée prepared you for college.
I think that it's incomparable. When I got to college and even later in grad school, people were so incredibly shocked that I was able, or that I had been taking, 4-hour tests for as long as I could remember. And it just built like an academic endurance that a lot of my peers didn't have. And I see it in my students now when, they have been growing up, and it's a bilingual school, but it's very much geared in the academic, or the American educational system. Like 20 minutes of tests kind of freaks them out, and I think that we were kind of able to just, put our heads down and get to work in a lot of different ways that I didn't see my peers able to. And so the academic endurance is one piece of it. And then just being able to question things a lot more. I think that having the opportunity to have like classes like philo, for example, that again, a lot of my peers were shocked that we were thinking about, existential issues at 16, 17 years old. And that's kind of when our brains are starting to, really make sense of the world. And so I feel like being able to have the variety of classes that we had, even though sometimes looking back it felt like very academic and very structured, I don't think that if I had the opportunity to redo it, I wouldn't really do it any other way, because I'm now able to think about things in a very critical way, and I think that that's just kind of the basis of being prepared for a challenging and academic way. And also having worked in an American high school, I just think that there's an academic rigor that's really, really incomparable. That's really remarkable.
We'll start with you first for the next question. That way you can't steal your answers.
Please, no. It's funny, whenever we try to explain the concept of the bac to an American high school student, they look at you with these sort of, what? That's not possible, that's no. When you tell them that it's not standardized testing and that it teaches you how to think. As Chloe said, I want to take the example of philo. The concept of asking you a single question, you have to write a 5-page essay on it. I don't think in high school, I don't think happens in a lot of American students, in a lot of American high schools. So it makes you think, and for my part, I needed the bac anyways. I needed to have assez bien, I think, which I got. I cheated my way through it. I did Spé Espagnol, so. But anyways, it was fundamental for my education, I think, for all of us, because it teaches you how to think and how to solve problems instead of just maybe guessing your way through it, or not really having to think, just memorizing answers. You can't really memorize answers with the bac. You have to know the answers and think your way through them. So there's no really way around it. So that helps really for the future. Just solve simple problem solving necessary.
I'm going to try to make this answer as personal as I can. I have always sort of been kind of a goofball, I guess. I've always been kind of a clown. So it always sort of made sense for me to go into performing arts, even though I never really thought I would, just because it didn't seem like a realistic ambition. But I always wanted to put myself in front of people. And but as I grew up, I learned that being an actor is so much more than just being a performer. It's also having an intellect. Any person who's ever won an Oscar, I'm going to take the first example, but anybody who's ever won an Oscar, you see them talk in an interview. They are one of the smartest people you will ever hear. Meryl Streep, just people like that are just so intelligent. And I think that if I was ever just nurtured into being this goofball, I never would have had the depth that this academic rigor, as my sister said, would have given me to be able to be disciplined enough to be as good of an actor as I am today. And I think that's all thanks to the lycée. It's just what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, it's just so rigorous, and there's just such a great work ethic that is implemented in this school, and it's really just helped me so much in college.
Okay, so I just got my PSAT scores today. Yeah. And what I realized is that the PSAT, it's a method. You don't even learn anything. You just learn how to take a test. Whereas the back, really, you're not learning. No. You learn the information, but you also learn how to synthesize information. Whereas you don't on the PSAT or the SAT. I would take the yeah, and I think that's what really makes it special, and it brings you something that standardized tests could never do. And yeah, I think, as you guys said, that I will use those skills I learned here, that like toolbox, for the rest of my academic career.
I'll just add, as a parent, the period of the baccalaureate can be very, very stressful because you want the best for your child. But there is also this new communication that happens with your kid. It can be through streaming and go and get it, but they start thinking in a different way. And it's very interesting because the exchanges you can have with them, you never get when they have to go and do the QCM. So it is true that also this baccalaureate as a parent is also a very, very interesting period that you build a relationship with your child in a different way, and you can see them grow through that period also.
So at this time I want to see if there's anyone in the audience who wants to ask the panel a question. Okay, I have a question. So I have a question for Noah. So Noah, you're in grade 11. In grade 8, which is a transition year for many students where they reflect upon, their incoming high school years, some students look at other schools to see what is offered at other schools and compare it to, what is offered at the lycée. So you were one of those students that applied to other schools and then at the end decided to stay here at the lycée. Could you speak to that decision and how that has benefited you?
The main reason I think I stayed at the lycée is because I was visiting one of these schools and I was shadowing an AP French class, and the students were giving presentations. And the first one goes up, and I can barely understand it. And he's speaking French, and I know French, right? It's just he didn't know any of the conjugaison yet, and he was mixing up the masculine and the feminine. I couldn't really understand through his accent. It was just, you're not learning the same level of French, and I knew that if I had gone to that school and I had taken French, that I would have lost my French. I wouldn't have developed it as I am right now. And I could see the immense progress that my level of French has, gone
Continue.
through exactly. And I'm happy I stayed because that's the thing.
Thank you. So, does anyone want to ask a question? We have a few minutes left before we move on to the next segment of our evening. Yes, question over there?
I guess maybe I'd like to ask Noah, as an incoming 6th grader, when you got to this campus, what was it like for you being amongst all high schoolers?
At first intimidating, and it wasn't until I actually got to high school that I realized that, oh, they're just people, like, but yeah, you're surrounded by all these tall adults, really, in senior year. But I guess it didn't do anything. I mean, like, I don't really have, it was fine, yeah. Was it like I was scared to go in the halls or afraid to ask questions? Yeah.
I directed it to you because I think the memories were recent for you. I'm thinking the other way about it was a job.
I think if anything, when you come into 6th grade and you were sharing the same building as high schoolers, if anything, as my personal experience, you sort of look up to them. They form this example of what you're going to go through, and they're going through the classes, they're coming out, they're hanging out, they have their own little foyer area, and you want to kind of be in their shoes, you want to be there, and it kind of inspires you to push through the 7 years, and again, most of the seniors were together since the 6th grade, so they have their own bond and they have their own friendships going, and so you really only interact with them if you want to. But if you want, then everybody's here to answer questions. I'm sure it's still the same, and they're very supportive. There's no bullying if that's a concern.
I remember when I was in 6th grade, we were at the Ashbury campus back then, and I remember seeing this McGill poster, and I immediately remember Miss Ritter at the time was having a conversation with a student about it, and I was like, oh my god, that's where I want to go. And that thought obviously followed me for a very long time, but that was one example. I also remember just being in the city and seeing all these big kids working through problems that I was so excited to tackle. And I never had a single negative interaction. That's just my personal experience, but it was just very much really exciting to be able to build relationships with other people that you would otherwise never really encounter. And it also kind of provided a level of maturity for us of first wanting to kind of have access to that world. And being able to interact with people that are a different age than you is a skill that I think can sometimes be forgotten in schools when kids are classed by really small age groups, and having the ability to interact with kids that you wouldn't interact with in another context, I think is a really important skill to have.
I had a kind of a different, experience than my siblings did, just because when I went there, they were all there for me, sort of a support. And also going into Miss McGuire's class, and she would go, oh, so you're Nicholas's brother, huh? That was something I had to go through. But the great thing about it as well is that we form sort of this weird, it's not a hierarchy, but it's like a respect. There's a certain respect for the higher classes that you develop, and that's really interesting. And also, I don't know if this is still a thing, but there was also tutoring. And so if you were in 6th grade, you would get tutoring from somebody who was in either 11th grade or 12th grade, and having them there to help you, and also they're gaining something from teaching you, that's just so fundamental, and that's so important, I think.
So thanks everybody. Thank you to the panelists for taking the time tonight to come by and share your experience with everyone.